But the thing that I didn't trust God with is the path of my career. It looks discombobulating. It was basically me taking control over my career. God is able to, even after your consequences, even after the pruning during your consequences, He's like, you know what? You're ready now. You will just be like, okay, it's happening. It's happening. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Conversations. I am your host V, and today is a bit of a different one, and I'm here alone. I know, right? That hasn't happened in a long time, but I think this episode was very, very necessary that I do it alone. But I hope everyone is good. Just lend me, please, 15 minutes of your time. Actually, it might be more, but you know what? Let's pretend. Okay. But yeah, I think I'm excited, even though this topic is not a happy-go-lucky kind of topic. But I just want to let you guys in a bit. Come closer. I just want to let you in, on what's been going on here, spiritually. And hopefully it can teach all of you something, So it wasn't really necessary for me to actually have a guest for today's episode, because normally I get guests so that I can get different perspectives on whatever we're talking about, right? So this one is personal. It's literally, I could get outside perspective, but it's heavily based off of personal experience. So yeah, I'm super excited. But before we get into it, as per usual, even though I am alone, I'm gonna still give the, what's it called? Theme song of the season. So I have sad news, I guess. The theme song of the season is still the same, to be quite honest. That has been on repeat, but I will look for another song that is actually my theme song of the season that I've been listening to recently. So just for a reminder, last month my theme song of the season was actually, I think it was 2 songs. It was Dwala by Hle, and then it was the same as my bestie that I had on the podcast, which was Umelusi by Musayende. Those were my 2 theme songs of the season. So Dwala is still one of them, but I'm thinking, let me give another one, because I can't just keep saying it's the same one, especially on this episode where I'm alone, right? So we're just going to go on what we've been most frequently playing. And I guess that would be the theme song of the season, right? I'm going to try my best, guys, because I literally listen to the same stuff every time. Oh, it just came to my head. I didn't even have to see it or check it. My theme song of the season is actually, this is the Gospel by Elevation. I just want to get it right. Elevation Rhythm. This is the Gospel with Joe Albons. This is the gospel. Come hear the good news. Tell everybody how he saved you. That has been my get up and go song. So those 2 songs have, actually those 3, because Ume Lucy is still on repeat. So those 3 are currently my theme song of the season. This is the Gospel has come back this season. It was my song literally last year, but it came back this season because it's time to tell people about the good news. You know what I'm saying? And also at church, a lot of so at church there's been like kind of talks on what is our responsibility as Christians. And then this past Sunday, I went to visit another church and literally lining up with that. What are our responsibilities? Or who are we as Christians? What are our responsibilities and stuff like that? So that has literally been kind of what my season is consisting of. Like, one of the things that we are required to do as Christians is tell people about the gospel. So yeah, let's get into it before I take my 15 minutes and extend it to 30. So today, guys, we are going to talk about kind of dealing with suffering the consequences of our own actions. Now, I'm one person, again, like if you haven't noticed on the podcast, I like to talk about things that are real. I want to give real life examples, practical solutions to biblical stuff. Do you understand? Kind of make it simpler for people to understand. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. So this past Bible study, somehow I ended up venting. I know this is the environment to do that. It's not a bad thing. And I'm appreciative that I have a group of friends that allowed me the space to do that. But this past Bible study, we were talking about a lot of different things, and I shared where I was at and what God has been teaching me. And I think it was just right for me to come and do it with you. So, suffering the consequences of our actions. And basically, that is disobedience. So, what does disobedience look like? And today's episode is not going to talk about the disobedience, that typical one. Do this sin, you are whatever, you do this sin. That's not the aim of the episode or the approach that I want to take in this episode, but rather what I want to get into is consequences of disobedience with regards to life decisions that we take. So, backstory. I've touched on this lightly before this year, but I don't know how deep I want to go. But over the past, let's say, end of July, it was heavy on my heart that I fix the mistakes that I've made. And how do I begin to fix this? By clearing every distraction and focusing on God and the things of God. So recently, I've touched on this and said that I decided this year to go back to school because of the fact that, to be honest, I didn't know what was going to come out of this year. I didn't know. Yeah, this job is so lovely, and doing podcasting, it doesn't feel like a job. And most of the time, literally, guys, you guys get one episode from me every month. So that means I'm basically working once every month. And then every other day, it was like, what am I going to do? So I made the decision to go back to school and study. However, there's one big thing that I really didn't think about, and that is consulting God and hearing what God has to say with regards to me going to school. Now, I need you guys to hear me out. Going to school is not ever a bad idea. Ever. One person who will never tell people not to go to school, because there's other people's careers and purposes that require them to go through that process, right? So I will never sit there and say, don't do it. But I will say, with me specifically, I didn't consult God, right? And what did that look like after? Let me go back. And the reason why I didn't consult God, I don't know where to start, guys. My mind isn't scrambled and I wrote notes, but I'm going to let God take over. So this all starts with, I think all the topics that I've spoken about this year are things that I'm dealing with, are more personal. They're not far-fetched, whereas last year's topics were mainly things that I had gone through, or lessons that I had learned, whereas this year was literally a blueprint. If you look at the episode, most of them, it's literally things that I'm most of the time living in real time. Or maybe I went through 2 months ago, or 1 month ago, or 2 weeks ago, or whatever. So in real time, or in real life, in the beginning of the year, I told myself I need to work on my trust in God. And I knew what I trusted God in, what I didn't trust God with regards to my life. But then again, I forgot about it, because by February, I need to register. I'm thinking, I don't have another job yet. What am I going to do with my life? 2025, what am I supposed to do? I don't know where to go. And this is where not trusting God comes into play, because you make decisions that, I don't want to say wrong, but you make decisions that you're not supposed to make. So because I didn't know what was going on, I said, you know what, Lord, since you're trying to figure out how to provide for me a job or whatever, let me do the school thing so long. So basically, it was basically me taking control over my career. And this year I've learned so hard that I trust God with every other part of my life when it comes to family, when it comes to financial provision, when it comes to relationship, when it comes to friendships and family relationships. All those things are easy for me to give unto God. But the thing that I didn't trust God with is the path of my career, because I felt like I couldn't see where I'm supposed to go direction wise in terms of where's the opportunity going to come from. Not that I didn't think God can provide an opportunity, but I really don't see a place where the opportunity is going to come. So, and I guess that boils down to faith, because it's the evidence of things not seen, right? Faith is the substance of things not seen and the evidence of things hoped for. It might be the other way around. But anyways, so yeah, I struggled, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not trust God with my career. So I wanted to take it in control. So I was like, you know what? This is not working. I haven't been getting a job. I've been seeing other people getting jobs, and fine, great for them. That is what God wants for them in this season, but I'm not getting anything. I can't afford to sit home for another year after I've just graduated. Like, I feel like I'm wasting time. So how about I choose another career path? Hopefully that one lands me with a job. But the problem with that is God never approved it. God never told me to go in that industry. He already told me which industry to go into. So what am I doing? Right? And now here I am. God provided another job for me in the industry that I'm actually interested in. But now I have to still deal with the consequences of the decisions that I've made. Right now, I'm going to be honest, I have been struggling. And I'll tell you what I've been struggling to do: to be consistent with working out. So my discipline now is consistency and discipline. I'll say consistency and discipline. But all the consequences that I'm struggling with now have to do with consistency and discipline. So it's the gym, it's friendships, it's sleep, it's, what's the other thing? Time with God. Like all of these, y'all. So all of this is affecting those things. And most of the time was feeling terrible. And I was like, Lord, I don't understand what's going on. And I was like, Lord, but why would you give me this job if I'm not going to be able to handle it? Why would you give me this if I'm not going to, I would always ask him, why? But then in July, God was like, I need you to take a step back and kind of reevaluate what's going on in your life. Let us talk about what's going on. And that's where he took me on a journey where he was explaining to me, girl, you did not trust me with this area of your life. You made a decision without speaking to me about it because you thought you taking over would get you to a place faster, would get you what you want, would be great. You would be happy, And yeah, guys, I will sit here and say, my parents are going to watch this. But anyways, it's okay. I believe this is going to help someone. But yeah, I will say that I have been struggling. But from end of July, I had to delete social media. It's kind of tough because also I work in the social media space. So now I'm on my laptop. Whenever I need to do something on social media for someone, I'll have to go on my social media on my laptop and say, this, search for inspo, get off, done. No personal indulging in any social media. But it's because I had to create time for God. If it means social media needs to die, then social media needs to die. And bear in mind, I've been trying to build my own social media brand. I literally started a challenge or a series on social media. And yeah, I had to put that on pause and be obedient because God wanted me to give everything to him. And that looks, it looks discombobulating because you're like a deer in headlights. Is that the saying? You just like, the whole time. Like that was me, July, August. Like I feel like a truck is coming at me and I'm like, "Ugh." You know what I mean? But in that, somehow I found peace because God is showing me this is the area you didn't trust me. This is why you didn't trust me. And then the more I start to build my trust in Him, the more He's like, here you go. Here's a taste of what it looks like to be obedient or what it looks like to go in the path that I have told you to go into, and as much as I haven't gotten the full picture, the full reward of obedience, just a little treat, like the little sweetie, the little Mentos sweet, you know what I mean? That is giving me so much hope that, oh my gosh, I don't know why I was stressed. Because once you obey God, I'm not saying everything comes easy, but once everything starts flowing, once God starts to release things, guys, you'll just be like, okay, it's happening. It's happening. Everybody stay calm. Like that's literally how it feels like, So I even went like this with my notes, but that is really what I wanted to kind of let you guys into. So, let me go back to my notes and give you a bit of pointers. Okay, so what are the lessons that we can learn in these seasons? These things are inevitable, guys. Not every Christian is perfect. All of us are going to come in a season where, even though we don't know that we don't trust God, we are going to come into a season where we have to live the repercussions of the consequences of our decisions, right? Literally, I think that's whatever rule, I forgot what it's called, but every action has a reaction. So sometimes God keeps those reactions away from us and gives us grace and so like, you know what, it's fine. You slipped up, but continue. Sometimes there is lessons that we need to learn in that. And genuinely in this season, while I'm living in the consequences of my actions, God is teaching me to trust Him. Like that is the biggest lesson that He's teaching me. He's teaching me about faith. He's teaching me about hard work. He's teaching me about not worrying. Guys, as an overthinker, your brain is always on. And your brain is always telling you, you don't have this, you don't have this. Maybe you need to find another plan on trying to figure this out. Also, as a recovering control freak, I'm telling you guys, it is so hard. So during the season, that was what God has been teaching me. And I think if you are currently living in a consequence of your action, I think try and look at what God is teaching you. Also, guys, God takes us through a pruning. And that scripture that God says God works everything to our good doesn't only apply to the things that the enemy tries to put on us or the plans of the enemy in our lives. That's not the only place that it applies, but it also applies to the things that we did to ourselves in our lives, the consequences of those. That's also where it applies. God will use it for your own good. For example, in my situation, God is using it maybe so that I can do this. Because truthfully, in the beginning of the year, I never thought I would actually have this conversation. Or 2 months ago, I never thought I would have a podcast episode speaking about this. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So what are the practical steps? I like to give y'all practicals. Practical ways that we can get through these consequences of our own actions. I genuinely believe detoxing, right? Excuse me. When every addict to something wants to be rehabilitated, they have to go through a detox session or season. So you need detox. And detox looks different for everyone. Everything that has become an idol, that has taken the time of God, you need to remove. And the reason why is we will constantly have excuses to why we don't spend time with God because we are keeping ourselves busy. And life is busy, guys. Nobody's going to deny that. But we need to create time for God. Be intentional. Just like you would go on a date, or your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you make time for them despite the 100 other responsibilities you have. So that's the same thing with God. Remove the social medias, remove whatever it is, because even me, for me to start this, I started it with a fast. This detox of mine, I started with a fast. I didn't go to the gym because I was fasting. And one thing about me, guys, if you don't know me, I'm a gym girly through and through. Like, that's my favorite place to be, right? I didn't go to the gym for the days that I was fasting. I didn't eat. Also, another thing that I like to do is eat good food. So, detoxing, social media, I literally was starting my own brand, meaning like my own social media, and taking it seriously and brand managing myself. Do you know what I mean? So, that had to stop, even though because of analytics, people will tell you can't afford to stop posting, you can't afford to be inconsistent. But if you are obedient, God will always reward your obedience. If he's telling you to go away from certain stuff, walk away from certain stuff for certain seasons, walk away, because when God rewards you for that, he will double what you could have done in the time if you were disobedient. For example, if I was going to get 10,000 followers in 2 months of consistent posting, but he told me to disappear for 2 months, he can bring those followers to 100,000. So we need to understand that we don't understand the ways of the Lord all the time, but we need to be obedient because he knows what he's doing. He knows the past, present, future. He knows everything, right? So yeah, I think the practical thing that I can say is detox. And once you've detoxed, continue with the flow and be obedient. Don't go back to those things until God has given you the okay. And during that detoxing, that's when you'll be able to hear the Lord. Sometimes he will tell you everything, sometimes he will tell you niblets. But in that season, God will do what he needs to do. So that's where I'm at right now. If y'all are wondering where I've been on socials, that's where I've been, So genuinely, I know I was everywhere because I had so much to say about this topic, and I wanted to touch so much, but I hope you guys are, But anyways, as I close off today's episode, I just want to also give you examples of people in the Bible where God turned their story for good. One person that really stuck out for me also is Jonah, right? Jonah fled when God told him to go and preach, right? What was the consequence of that action? He was swallowed up. Swallowed up. So that was his consequence. But what is the redemption of this whole story? The fact that even till this day, we are learning from his story. People still got saved after the consequence of his actions. You know what I mean? So if you want to read about Jonah, that's in Jonah 3 verse 1, I think. Yeah, I think that's what I wrote. I wrote a couple of verses, so I can't remember where to start. Anyway, another person that also stood out for me was Peter. Guys, if you don't know, Peter's my favorite disciple. I might be biased, but Peter's my guy, right? Because I'm Peter. Like, if I was a disciple and I was walking with Jesus, I would move how Peter would be moving. If anybody was to touch my Savior, do you know what I mean? So I get Peter on so many levels, but I digress. But the story of Peter, of him denying Christ. He denied Christ. Was it 3 times? Yeah. He denied Christ. And he was so guilty. The consequences is how he felt about himself. And he could have done what Judas did, right? And commit suicide after. But he didn't. He felt guilt. But still, God said, you know what? I still want you to go out there and preach the gospel. And there's so much weight in that. The fact that God is able to, even after your consequences, even after the pruning during your consequences, he's like, you know what? You're ready now to go and do X, Y, and Z that I've told you, to go into this workspace, to go into this relationship, to go into whatever it may be. So yeah, I just wanted to give you references, and that reference of Peter, hold on, my notes, girl. One thing about me, certified yapper, I write notes. The story of Peter's disobedience or him denying God is in Luke 22. You can check it there. And then also John, I think, somewhere. John and Acts. You know how it works in the New Testament. The same story multiple times. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope my testimony helps a lot of you. I hope it also changes your perspective on life. And just, this was literally a mixture of learning to trust God, like a video about learning to trust God and dealing with consequences together. So I hope you have learned something from my story, and I hope, tell me in the comments, what have you been disobedient about and what are your consequences? Please, I'll be interacting for sure. But yeah, I hope you are having a blessed day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.